Today we are looking at Psalm 77. And I have to say, I think this has become my new favorite psalm. It's this really incredible psalm about where do we find God when God seems to be distant. If you have a read through the psalm, it starts off this way. Verse 1 and 2 says, I cried out to God for help. I cried out to God to hear me. When I was in distress, I sought the Lord at night, stretching out untiring hands, and I would not be comforted. It starts off by saying that there's something agonizing, something distressing that this person is going through, and he sought God out. He lifts up his hands and he cries out for the Lord, but he can't be comforted. God seems to be absent. He goes on in verse 7 and he asks this question: will the Lord reject forever? Will he never show his favor again? Has his unfailing love vanished forever? Has his promises failed for all time? Has God forgotten to be merciful? Has he in anger withheld compassion? So whatever this person is going through, it's clear that God does not seem to be in the picture. God seems to be withholding his love and his compassion, and this person is just wondering, God, where are you? Have I done something? Have you turned away? Are you gone forever? And maybe there's been moments in your life, maybe now is one of those moments where you feel like that, where you feel like God is far away. You pray, you seek God's face, and it doesn't seem like anyone is listening. That no one is home, that no one cares, that God somehow has turned his back on you. What do? How do you then continue on in trust, and where do you find hope? Well, the psalmist answers the question for us. In the middle of his agony, he's crying out to God, he's finding nothing, he's doing all the right things, and God doesn't seem to be there. What does he do? Have a look at verse 10 and following. He says, and then I thought, to this I will appeal. The years when the Most High stretched out his right hand. I will remember the deeds of the Lord. Yes, I will remember your miracles of long ago. I will consider all your works and meditate on all your mighty deeds. So how do we find God when God seems to be absent? The psalmist's answer is to remember. To remember what God has done in the past. If God can't be found in the present and he's distant, you don't know what's going to happen in the future, where can we turn to maintain hope? We can turn to and remember what God has done for us in the past. And the psalm goes on to recount all these amazing things that God has done and what he is like, how he has come through for us before. And so the psalmist says, when God seems to be absent now, we can continue to hold on to these truths of how God operated in our lives and in history before. That same God who did those amazing things, who parted the Red Sea, who turned water into wine, who transformed us at broken moments in our life before, that same God has that ability to do that again. He hasn't just stopped, he hasn't changed, he hasn't forgotten, but when God seems to be absent, we remember what God has done in the past. This is actually a repeated biblical command in the book of Deuteronomy. Before the people enter the promised land, one of the words that comes up over and over again through that book is Moses tells the people, remember. When you go in and things are good, remember what God has done for you. When you've turned your back on God and things are not going your way, he says, remember what God has done for you. And when Jesus, before his death, shares communion, he takes bread and he breaks it, he offers a drink to his disciples and he offers them to drink, and he says, do these things in remembrance of me. This is the darkest time in Jesus' life, and maybe the disciples' life as well. facing death and an unknown future. And Jesus says, how do you survive that? Remember. So wherever you are, if you're in that dark moment where God seems to be absent, maybe the simple thing is just, instead of worrying about where God is and what he's going to do and what it's going to be like, just stop. Remember. Remember what God has done in the past. Yeah, we can do that by reading through God's word and seeing all these incredible things that he has done. Or maybe even just remembering what God has done for us in the past. And hold on to those truths to carry us through the present and into the future.